Every season is spooky season in our book.
So settle in and prepare
to be shook.
You're listening to Shook, a comedic podcast about all things paranormal and unexplained.
Hey everyone, I'm Amanda, and fun fact, my husband and I have a framed photograph of Tommy Wiseau from The Room on our living room mantle.
She does, it's true. I've seen it with my own two eyes, and it's majestic. Also, I'm Sannah, and I am developing a squishmallow addiction. I'm currently sitting on 2 different squishmallows to form a booster seat so that I can be tall enough for this mic. And I have one here just cuz. And that's awkward facts about me.
I love it. We love to see it.
I've had something in my eye the whole time that we've been trying to do this.
Oh no.
Probably all of the eyeliner I decided was necessary to wear today. And I don't normally wear eyeliner because it irritates my...
So you're digging in your eyeball.
Digging for gold and just smearing the eyeliner all around.
You're like, where are you?
And I'm so sorry.
That's for you, Mariah. Mariah and I love to sing that to each other.
It's a fave. It's a classic.
It is.
It's the classic emo jam. So we're here today to tell each other some stories that we haven't previously told to each other. It's our first time, so forgive me for when I wander off topic and end up somewhere on the astral plane.
Hey, we're just 2 neurodivergent queens, and we're going to find our way. So, Sannah, what story has you shook this week?
So my story this week it's a very familiar tale to most Americans, I would say. It's a classic. It's about Sarah Winchester and her Winchester Mystery House, as it has come to be known.
Yes.
In San Jose, California. That's my story. So would you like me to tell my story first?
Yes, please go first.
Great. That's going to be great for my anxiety, actually, for me to go first. Because then I can relax as you tell your story.
Yeah.
Most of us know the story that has been circulated about Sarah Winchester, and many people have seen the Helen Mirren film about her as well. She's a very popular household name. She was the wife of William Winchester, who he owned the Winchester Repeating Arms Company, which produced one of the first automatic rifles, essentially, that could shoot 15 bullets between reloads. It revolutionized warfare at the time. They lived in New Haven, Connecticut, so they were up north, and they sold a lot of the rifles to the Union. And then, of course, it became known as the gun that won the West.
I didn't know that.
During our expansion west. And even a lot of Native American tribes were purchasing Winchester rifles. That was their main weapon for defending themselves.
Would this have been the weapon of choice if you were on the Oregon Trail?
Yes.
Could you have won the game?
Yes, because fun fact, in my deep depths of research about this gun and this family, the original Winchester rifles, which I even know what that was, it was the 1866 Yellow Boy. That's the OG right there, the 1866 Yellow Boy.
Hell yeah.
That gun was actually made by someone who no longer someone who's no longer with the company. Yeah, he actually invented it, and the Winchesters somehow ended up with the rights. I don't know that it was fair, but they ended up with the rights to it. But yeah, so that original 1866 Yellow Boy, that was the OG. And then that one really wasn't powerful enough for hunting. So people on the Oregon Trail were actually complaining that it wasn't, that the early versions of their rifles weren't great for hunting. And so they made some that were great for hunting. And then that became actually a weapon to have on the Oregon Trail, to answer your question.
Awesome. Okay, so they're probably good for shooting your eye out, kid.
They're good for shooting your eye out and killing people and winning wars or losing them and defending your family. And so, needless to say, the Winchesters became very rich.
How rich were they?
I can tell you, actually. They were already well off, like both of their families, both Sarah and William's families separately were pretty well off, and they were considered part of high society New Haven. They grew up together and everything, but I will answer your question about how rich were they after I tell you some bad news.
Oh no.
So, first of all, they had a very lovely, happy marriage and everything, but Sarah gave birth to a daughter. She had a baby girl. She named her Annie. And only a few weeks after she was born, she died. She never had any more kids after that. She grew a really intense bond with her niece, Daisy, who I'll come back to later on, who I think she kind of saw as a daughter, but she never had any other kids. And then 15 years after the death of her baby, William died. And he died of tuberculosis, but in his will, he basically left everything to her. And he left her with Winchester repeating arm stock worth $77,000, which was a lot of money back then. And that paid her $7,770 per year until his mother died. And then she inherited $200,000 more dollars. So she just had a lot of inheritance coming in. She also had money coming in from the company that was still very valuable and profitable. And she was on the board of the company still up until she died. So she was still getting money and
getting these coins,
still getting money. But, you know, she lost the two most important people in her life. Like she had brothers and sisters too. Well, she had a brother and several sisters, but yeah, she was widowed at a really young age. It's such a weird concept. It's like the Britney Spears song.
She lucky.
Yeah, she could have anything materially that she wanted, but she couldn't materialize her husband and daughter again. So it's said that in her grief, she sought out the guidance of mediums in her area and up north. And they say that she visited a medium in Boston named Adam Coons, who told her that she was being plagued by spirits. Yeah, he said, he was basically like, you're being plagued by the spirits, all of the spirits that have been killed by the Winchester rifle.
Oh, no. Right. That's a lot of spirits.
It's a lot of spirits. It's like everyone who died in the Civil War, everyone who's died in the Midwest, in the West, etc. Everyone who's just killed somebody with the gun. Someone killed themselves.
Tragedy of it all.
Yeah, so this Adam Coons character told her that she was being plagued by the spirits of all those who have been killed by the Winchester rifle, and told her that she needed to move out west and continuously build on a house as an act of protection for herself. So she did move out west, and the first property, I believe the first property she acquired was the San Jose house that we know as the Winchester Mystery House. That property during her time was referred to as Lanata Villa.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a lot of syllables.
Lanata Villa or Lanata Ranch. Because it was a full-blown, it was a ranch. She was raising like fruits, vegetables, livestock. She had a whole operation going in addition to all of the building that she was doing. So she did move there, and she did do an extensive amount of building on that house. Like it was pretty constant, the building, for the most part. And then of course, another part of the legend with the house is that she conducted solo seances. like just by herself, solo seances in this room that was off to the side of her bedroom. It's this blue room. I did the 360 tour. I did the little virtual 360 tour, and I toured that whole house. And I saw the seance room. It looks like it could be a walk-in closet or a laundry room or something. Like it's not that not that big, and it's not extravagant either. It's just the walls are painted white and blue, but mostly blue. And so that was her seance room, allegedly. And they say that she would ring a bell at midnight to summon the spirits. And then she would ring the bell again at 2 a.m. to release the spirits back into the ether, I guess.
Off you go there.
Yeah. So she was just in there allegedly doing seances alone, which is funny because it's kind of like those times that I did the Ouija board by myself.
Oh, no.
Which I'm not going to get into the details on that. But seances, I thought, were like a thing where you're using the energies, like not just your own. I don't know. It's like a communal. A seance is a group activity.
You got to get in a circle.
I thought
have candles.
I thought it was a group activity, but I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, she's known for these seances. And then another creepy fact about the seance room, which I found out in the 360 tour, is that there's only one entrance to the seance room, but there are 3 possible exits. So the one entrance is like through her room or outside of her room. And then once you're in the room, there's a secret passageway door. And I don't know where that goes, but it's like a secret trapdoor type situation for a secret passageway. And then the other door just opens up to nothing. And then you're just like right above the kitchen sink underneath it. So you can't actually go out that door. It's just
interesting.
That's just an example of some of the weird construction choices. Another thing that's weird about the construction of the house, I mean, there's a lot of things that are weird about the construction of the house, but notably there are multiple sets of stairs that lead to nowhere. Like literally you're going up the stairs and then you just run into ceiling.
Is there a stairway to heaven?
There isn't, but there would have been a stairway to heaven if she had not patched up the stuff that got destroyed in the earthquake, which I will get to shortly.
Oh my gosh, there was an earthquake?
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah. There's doors that open up into just like thin air in the house. It's like you open the door and it's just outside, but there's just a huge drop. Those are the things that have always confused people about the house and made people think like, why would she do that?
Yeah.
She must have done that in an effort to confuse the spirits. And that's kind of what the legend is. The legend is that she built continuously and that she hired construction workers to work literally around the clock. And she paid a lot of money to these people to work around the clock, like 24/7, 365, so that like...
Did it drain her funds completely, you think?
No. There was no drain. There was no drain in this woman's funds because she was a baddie. She had it like that. Don't come for her.
Not what is it, 1800s?
Yeah. One thing about her,
1800s baddie.
she's got money put back.
Oh, okay.
And
she came correct with the cash.
Yeah, she's got money put back and she's spending it on buying up properties because this house, like people always associate this woman with this house specifically as if she lived and breathed that only in her life and just was in isolation in this one and only house that her whole life. But no, this was not her only house. Can you guess how many houses she actually had?
47.
Okay, no, not that many.
Okay. All right.
Okay, she had 5 total.
Oh, okay.
5 total. No, she actually owned in her name more than 5. Literally was just constantly buying properties. And 2 or 3 of her properties, she actually spent years living in those houses while simultaneously doing the construction on the mystery house.
Mm-hmm.
And then her family members lived in some of the properties too. Like she was just always buying houses for her family to live in, buying houses for her to live
A
in.
generous queen.
She was a really generous queen, actually, which also goes unmentioned a lot too. Let me just say, I was drawn to this story because I was fascinated by the legend of her being this odd, eccentric woman who talks to ghosts and builds on her house forever. I was like, that's cool. And I want to know more about it. And I just wanted to like deep dive into the actual paranormal stuff that was going on. But here on this first episode of Shook Paranormal Podcast, I have to say that I don't actually think, from everything that I've read, I don't believe like any of these claims anymore. And I'm a believer.
Is this just based on all of the tea that was spilt in some of these books
Yes,
that you read?
I'm going to get into the tea in a second. I'm going to debunk all the stuff, but I have to let you and our 1 or 2 listeners at this stage know that I went into this hoping for some real ghost tea, and I ended up just learning so much about this woman's life and how much more there was to her and her life than this one house that has been blown out of proportion. And I'll explain to why I don't believe the legend anymore as well. But I just wanted to let you guys know what the folklore was around it if you don't already know first. So that concludes the actual scary part of my story.
Question though. What happened when the construction on the house was completed? Because it had to end at some point.
Well, construction on the house never was completed, but that leads me to...
But it stopped, right?
Yeah. And that leads me to one of my first actual debunking statements, I guess. Ooh. So a big part of the legend about Sarah Winchester is that she believed that if construction ever stopped and if they weren't constructing around the clock, then she would die. But she didn't actually have people working on the house around the clock 24/7, 365. She actually took years off of building at certain points. And construction never truly stopped because it was always something that she had projects in the pipeline for. That house, she always was working on it. It was a project. It's still considered an unfinished project, really. But in 1906, that's when the big earthquake happened. And that is when a bunch of her house got destroyed. Also, it's conflicting on if she was even at the house when the earthquake happened too. Because some stories say that Sarah Winchester was in the house. They say she was in a room that's known as the Daisy Room, which is a room that has like a lot of daisy details built into its architecture and the wallpaper. And also her niece's name is Daisy, so it was probably like inspired by
Named
her.
after her, maybe.
And they say she was in the Daisy Room when the earthquake happened and that she got trapped underneath a bunch of rubble and that her staff had to get her out of there with a crowbar. That's what some say. But there's no proof that she was there. But that's based on like correspondences between her and people. And
right.
During the time that the earthquake happened, she was living full time at a different property. But she could have been there. Either way, she didn't get hurt in the earthquake, but her house did get pretty destroyed. There was a tower that was like, I forgot what they called it. There was a tower that was like 7 stories high and that got destroyed. And so after the earthquake, another popular thing that people say is that she kept building immediately after the earthquake and rebuilt everything. It was like, oh, I gotta rebuild or else I'm gonna die because of the ghosts. But actually, she didn't rebuild anything, which is why we have stairs to nowhere, because that earthquake basically demolished floors that were already there where the staircases led to. So instead of rebuilding floors of the house, she just put a ceiling there just so it could be patched up so that the house isn't just gaping to the gods.
Gaping wide open. Busted wide open.
Gaping to the gods. Come on, rain into my house. So
Right.
That's why there's stairs to nowhere. And then there's doors to nowhere as well that drop off into thin air outside. And that's because there used to be balconies there, or there used to be rooms there where those doors led to, and they just shaved it off. So that's
Lobbed off like an amputated arm.
that's like the big reason for that. And then I really wanted the like psychic Adam Coons to be real. I really did. I at least wanted my boy Adam Coons to be real. But there have been so many people that have tried to locate this person in the depths of history, and no one can find him. But I couldn't find him in a basic Google search, obviously, but actual ancestry people that have tried to trace him.
Is there a possibility maybe that he was going by a pseudonym? Maybe?
I still think it's possible that she did meet a person by this name, and that history has been spelling his last name incorrectly this whole time. Mm-hmm. And I personally don't rule out Sarah Winchester going to see mediums. And she was a progressively minded woman anyway. Like, she wasn't like super religious or anything. Like, I could see her go in that route. I'd be like, yeah, somebody give me some answers.
Right.
So that's believable to me. I mean, this whole thing was believable to me this whole time until I started reading the books. So I started
You read a bunch of books, I feel like, about this.
I did. I read, this was my main source for all of like the debunking biographical information about Sarah Winchester, and that's Captive of the Labyrinth by Mary Jo Ignoffo. This is a full biography of her life and her entire family's life as well. I learned a lot. And then there's good old Sarah Winchester, My Neighbor by Edith Daley. This woman was her neighbor who was a huge gossip, and she would just kind of hang out outside of her house when she walked her dog, because Sarah had do not disturb, but she had no trespassing signs like everywhere because she did not want people to bother her. So this woman would just sort of like stand outside and judge her in her house. And she throws so much shade at her in this book. There was one thing in particular that I thought was so funny. Oh, yeah, she's always trying to talk shit one way or another. Something about the rambling, oddly constructed house at Winchester Place. Something strange and rather pathetic set me wondering about the woman who had lived there for over 40 years. She was a recluse, in a sense of the word, unusual in our stirring modern times. No social life, no children, few relatives. Whatever lightness and joy entered her isolated life seemed to have done so by way of her constant planning and building, Basically, this is how this woman talked about her in this whole book.
Wow.
In this whole book, she just refers to her. She's lonely, isolated, pathetic. This house is just too much. It's too big. Like, she was just a hater. She was just mad because she wasn't Sarah Winchester.
Haters gonna hate.
She really was just a hater. But yeah, those were my main sources on like the real information. Then of course I went to the Winchester Mystery House website and did the 360 tour. And that was enlightening in terms of like how they're marketing everything, and seeing the house is amazing.
I bet.
And also old Edith was saying about her being lonely, isolated, no friends, no family, no nothing. She was just really going to town with that. But actually, that's not true either. Sarah actually had multiple family members that lived around her. And yeah, her sister Belle came to live on one of her properties. And Belle is Daisy's mother, of course, her favorite niece.
She just did a dollop of Daisy. Okay, that
dollop of Daisy.
That was bad. I'm sorry.
Well, it was great that she got a dollop of Daisy because they really were close for like her whole life. And Daisy even came to live with her at Lanata Villa, which is now Winchester Mystery House. She came to live there at the San Jose house. She lived there for about 15 years, maybe 15 years. I don't know. I may be wrong about the 15 years, but she lived there for many years until she finally got married. And Daisy didn't get married until she was in her 30s.
Yes, honey.
which we love to see. But at that point in time, society did not love to see that.
You had maybe 4 months to live
Yeah.
at that point,
At
right?
that
Like,
point,
the TB gonna get you.
yeah. But she finally got married. And so Sarah didn't really become as reclusive until Daisy got married, which was in 1903. But she had already been living there and having the reputation of being a loner for a long time. So she died in 1922. And literally 9 months after her death, her house was already having tours with this whole like, with all the haunted marketing and everything.
You texted me while you were researching this, and you specifically mentioned that you thought this case in particular was all about the marketing.
Yeah.
And that's where it got all its shenanigans.
Mm-hmm. That's really what it is. And I say all this, like I said in my disclaimer at the beginning of my story, was I was really going into this, and I chose this story because ever since I was a kid, I've been like fascinated with it. Because I saw back in the 90s, I saw some A&E documentary or something, some TV little documentary thing talking about it. And I was like, oh my God, that's so cool and so mysterious. And I was all about it, all about the lore of it. And I still am. I still think it's cool.
Yeah.
But in learning everything that I've learned about this woman, and I haven't even touched on everything in me talking to you. Not only was she brilliant at architecture, like she literally drew the plans herself that she presented to construction workers to implement.
What?
She did all of
That's
that
awesome.
design. And she was a master of French, piano, violin. She was just a very well-rounded,
Multi-talented.
well-educated woman. And on top of all that, she was like a massive philanthropist. First of all, she was always buying homes for her family to live in and giving them money to live off of. And then donating to different foundations all the time. And then even back in, I think it was 1909. Yeah, it was 1909. She decided that she wanted to donate, I believe, $1 million to what is now known as Yale's New Haven Hospital.
Holy.
She donated $1 million to set up the William Wirt Winchester Hospital, which was at the time a tuberculosis clinic because he died of tuberculosis, and he was treated there. And so that was one of the things she did like late in life. And that was probably her biggest donation. But she was always donating money and stuff to people and just really taking care of her employees as well. And yeah, I don't know. I feel like personally, if I was Sarah Winchester, I would haunt the shit out of that house because just because it's like, it's one of those things where it's like, oh, you're talking about ghosts? Like you want to talk about me and ghosts my whole life? I'll show you a ghost. I would haunt the shit out of the people in that house because this is my house, bitch.
Yeah.
This is
Get out.
my house. I literally built it.
Dang.
And yeah, that's what I would do for fun if I was Sarah Winchester. I would just make stuff happen. But she was a very prideful woman. So honestly, Sarah Winchester, she would never do something like that. She would never give them the satisfaction of letting there be a haunting.
Yeah, and that Edith bitch can step in a pile of mud. I don't care. Edith can eat a dick. Okay,
she can, TBH, because she was rude. She was disrespectful. And literally on the day in her little book, she talks about how the day Sarah died, this woman with her little dog.
Oh, no.
Knowing Edith, it was probably a Chihuahua. She literally just trespassed onto the property. As soon as she found out that Sarah Winchester died, she walked over and she was like, now's my chance to see the house. And she just started walking through the garden.
Just traipsing.
Like, first of all, bitch, Sarah Winchester had not even been buried yet. Another fun fact, Sarah Winchester, because she wanted to be buried back in New Haven next to her husband and baby daughter, her body sat in San Jose for months until it got transported to New Haven. her sister Belle died. Her sister Belle died a little bit before she died. And Belle actually did get buried in a cemetery nearby. And then Daisy ended up having her mother Belle dug up and transported both her mother and Sarah at the same time. She rode in the train with them to go back to New Haven and have them both buried at the same time. It was crazy.
Yikes.
It was some crazy shit. But I will tell you, there are a few little fun ghostly things that have been reported at the Winchester Mystery House. So in 2013, during the last tour of the day, the tour group stopped in what's known as the Venetian dining room, which was a dining room that's in like this Italian decorating style. And that's where Sarah usually ate dinners. There's like multiple dining rooms in this house, of course. And there was like this massive like brass chandelier hanging there above the table. And there's a video of the chandelier just like swaying on its own. And I have that video.
Swinging chandelier. Hell nah. Nope. I don't see anybody nearby. I can't explain that.
Yeah, like,
although it does look like somebody's peeping in the shadows recording. So maybe they went huh, and then like bowling, and then they just ran back. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, like, well, they're recording through a window from another room.
Oh, it looked like a banister.
So like,
but maybe it wasn't.
Prior to them hitting record, someone could have caused the back and forth of that. So that's one of those things that we can say, who can be sure? I'm not going to try to debunk that. And I'm not here, just so everyone knows, I'm not here to try to debunk stuff. I just, in this particular instance, when I was being faced with the facts, I was like, well, it is what it is. It is what it is. But it was still a great opportunity to tell this woman's truth. And that's great. And then also, there was another ghostly thing too about the house. Oh, so employees and guests both have reported seeing what's known as the wheelbarrow ghost, which is the ghost of one of Sarah's, or this ghost has been identified in a photo as being one of Sarah's landscaping staff members. And they've seen his ghost down in the steam alley in the basement, which is this corridor of like radiators and stuff. They see him like pushing a wheelbarrow down in the steam alley. And then they've also seen him fixing the fireplace in the grand ballroom. Those are like the places that he's been seen in the house by.
So he's just out here working for free?
Yeah, he's out here even in the afterlife. He said, even in the afterlife, I gotta go clock in.
Okay, maybe she made a deal with him and just had this stash of eternal coins. It's like Bitcoin, but for eternity. Ethereum. Is that what one of them is? I don't know.
Ethereum, yeah.
Bitcoin. Yeah, Ethereum. Ethereum for eternity. Here you go, handyman. Keep it work.
What I think...
Push the wheelbarrow.
If the wheelbarrow ghost is real, which I do actually believe in ghosts and spirits, so...
Me too.
I'm not saying that he doesn't exist, and I could actually see it because she really took very good care of her employees. Like, she really did. She housed many of them, and they were like a part of her family. And I mean, she kept the same staff members for years and years and years and years and paid them really well. And even in her will, she like left money for them. Like,
so sweet and wholesome.
Yeah, like she was a badass. And yeah, just know that, everyone. We can have fun. We can have fun with the folklore that surrounds Sarah Winchester, but it's very important for us to also remember that she's probably like way more fucking badass than any of us will ever be in our lifetime. And I know that's like shitty to say, but like, It's facts. It's where's the lie?
I'm impressed by her, especially
Me too.
considering how philanthropic she was and how big of a heart she seemed to have had. You know, in today's money, what is math? I don't know. She had so much freaking money, and
Yeah.
she could have been up in her house hoarding the money and just not
Yeah.
sharing the wealth at all. But
And
she said,
yep.
no,
And she
I'm
could
going
have
to help.
she
my
could have not
grandbaby."
left anything to any of her family either, but she, in addition to the $1 million she donated to the Yale hospital, in addition to that, she left like a $200,000 inheritance to her sister,
Wow. That's a lot.
to one of her sisters. I think it was, she left a $200,000 inheritance to somebody. And then, of course, she took care of Daisy. She set up trust funds for all of her nieces and nephews and all of the grandchildren in the family that were like her sister's grandkids and her brother's grandkids. Like every single person in her family that was still alive got money when she died.
Generous queen.
And all of her staff that like was close to her got money and everything. And I guess the last little piece of tea that I will give, which this is kind of well-known tea, I think, but this is like the most, I don't know, it's kind of sad. So after the home was purchased, after she died, there was a door in the grand ballroom that was basically like locked shut, and they didn't have a way to get into it, sealed shut. And once they got the door open, they found a safe. And once they got that safe open, they found another safe. And inside the second safe, guess what was in the second safe?
What was in it?
Nothing much. Just her husband's obituary and her baby Annie's obituary and a lock of her baby's hair. And that was all that was in the safe within a sealed room.
Bender decided he wanted to join the party.
Hi, baby.
Baby Bender.
He did definitely steamroll my ending.
He did. We gotta try it again.
It's okay.
He literally jumped up on my iPad.
It's okay.
Sorry.
I feel like my story is like really long and was all over the place. But yeah, so
No.
that's basically it. Like that's all. That's just like proof positive that that's all she cared about in her life was her family, and she wasn't hoarding money in a safe or anything. Like I think the only reason that she cared about money at all was to make sure her family was taken care of. Truly.
That's so sweet.
But and to fund her passions, because that's all she had to do back then.
So in college, we studied communication/journalism, right? And I think you had a journalistic approach here with this story. You went in looking for one thing,
Yeah.
and you came out on the other end with a wealth of knowledge that you didn't even know that you needed. I think that's awesome.
That's true. I mean, I'm definitely like, I'm not disappointed with how my story turned out. Like, I'm actually really happy to discover like this information that I did not know before about this person's life, and that I took the time to learn more about this person's life and educate other people about her life and hopefully help with her legacy in that way. I don't know. But I was definitely hoping for more of the paranormal stuff to be like actually a real thing. So
Wait, did you say we can go visit today, or is it gone? Can we like
the Winchester
I know
Mystery
the
House?
virtual tour was up, but can we physically go visit it?
Yes, we can. And I really want to. I really want to
man.
go.
That would be so much fun.
Yeah.
I feel like I need to bring a map.
Oh, they got one.
A compass.
Oh, they got one. And I know my way around at this point because I
Yeah,
did
you
the
do.
360 tour.
We love a Matterport 360 tour.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was such a good story, and you did a great job. explaining it because I'll admit I've heard the story before, but you literally spilt tea that I have not sipped ever.
Yeah, tea I didn't even know existed. And a little tiny fleck of tea for the next episode. I actually, in my research for this story, I discovered what my next story is going to be about. And it is connected to this. And there's a little thread that does connect these two stories. So I'm excited about next week.
Okay, yeah, from now on, our stories are going to be secret.
Yes.
I'm going to try not to guess your story.
You won't guess it.
I won't. Okay.
Mm-mm.
All right.
Unless you did the amount of research that I did on this specific thing, you wouldn't guess it.
No. I feel like not just your case, but my case too. I think we both undertook some pretty well-endowed stories.
Yeah.
So this episode, I won't be surprised. Even after we cut it down, I won't be surprised if it's one of the longer episodes.
Which is fine because it's the
which
first...
is totally fine.
We don't have, at the end of the day, we don't have a time limit, I don't think, do we?
No, we don't.
Is there like a standard, look, I don't know anything. Is there like a standard podcast time limit that is suggested?
No. With the kind of content that we are bringing to the table, I've seen podcasts anywhere from 30 minutes to almost 3 hours. Okay. It really just depends. And I know we haven't addressed what my topic is yet, but kind of to your point of you went into this with the surface level knowledge that you had. Yeah. And you found all of this information that you didn't even know that you needed to know. And your story, like I said, was very, journalistic in that way. And I found in my story, in my research, it was like a spider web, if that makes sense. Every little piece of information that I gathered splintered off into a million different directions. Yeah. And I know we had some delays with getting the first episode going. And in that time, I was like, well, if we're not recording, then I might as well read some more. Yes. And even today, I still felt like there was so much more that I could learn. I felt that way too. Various rabbit holes. I probably could write a dissertation about this one day if I ever have the time. I guess without further ado, my story, as you already know but won't know in the future, is the Phoenix Lights.
Yeah, I know nothing. I know nothing about this topic. I'm actually not well versed with alien stuff, so I'm excited.
You ain't know nothing. Well, before I get started with this story, I have to make a little disclaimer. My grandmother says "I reckon" a lot, and I started picking that up, like semi-ironically, just saying "I reckon" after every little thing, and I reckon
you ought to.
I reckon I ought to go down yonder. Anyway, I started saying "I reckon" ironically, and now it's slowly become, or rather suddenly become, part of my regular vernacular. That's
my entire vocabulary is just stuff that I said ironically that I made a habit out of, and now here we are.
I think, yeah, that should be a disclaimer that half the shit we say is in jest. Yeah. So I don't know. You'll figure us out after a while, but we are a special breed of gal.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
All right. Okay. All right. So, like I said, my story is the Phoenix Lights, also known as the Lights over Phoenix. And this case, honestly, it has something in common with yours. The number 13 will come into play. I'll touch on that. But okay, so it was the most widely witnessed UFO phenomenon to ever occur in the United States of America history. More than likely. I think, Roswell is very famous. There's a couple of other ones that are very famous, but this was the most widely witnessed event that we've ever had. March of this year marks the 25th anniversary of the event, which occurred on March 13th, 1997.
Okay.
Yeah, I was 8 years old, like freshly had just turned 8, and I was completely unaware of this as it happened. However, I feel like I may have seen something about this on the original Gangster Unsolved Mysteries when I was a kid. I have a very faint memory.
Probably.
It's not something that came up in my radar when I was researching, but I'm sure it's out there. The old Robert Stack version of Unsolved Mysteries, not the new one. But anyway, so after 7:30 p.m. on the evening of March 13th, Mountain Standard Time, thousands of people witnessed strange red-orange lights hovering over Arizona in a V formation. Some people described it as a boomerang shape. I'm not sure if you're able to pull up the drive, but I did include some photos
I
that
can pull
show
up the
the
drive.
very few images that exist out there.
Yeah.
But if you look at the imagery, which I'll post what I can online, I guess, on our social media, just because I think there's been a lot of concern over copyright things, but we'll see what we can do. If you want, you can just go online and Google Phoenix Lights, and you should be able to see at least a few images that kind of show what this phenomenon looked like. So basically, these lights that were hovering over Phoenix and surrounding areas, actually there was 2 separate events within the grander event, if you will. The timeline of the first event was starting at 7:55, Henderson, Nevada. People started seeing these lights, followed by Paulden, Arizona, Prescott, Arizona, Phoenix, and then Tucson. So that whole timeline went from 7:55 to 8:45. And then later there was a secondary event around 10 p.m. specifically over Phoenix, where these lights were hovering at a super low altitude and a silent, some people described it as a craft, some people described it as multiple UFOs. Yes, it's unidentified. We don't know where it came from.
It's confidential.
It's confidential. I can't tell you that. Anyway, the lights were seen by, like I said, thousands of people. They were seen by police officers, military personnel, a mystery pilot, which we'll touch on, many, many civilians. The first call that came in through the National UFO Reporting Center, which was completely inundated with calls from witnesses, first call came in at 8:16 p.m. And that first call came in from a retired cop in Paulden, Arizona, which is around 2 hours north, slightly northwest of Phoenix. He's the first one who called in and said, yo, like something's going on. I don't know what this is. And then there was another man named Terry Proctor who happened to capture some of the only video evidence that exists. And although that the video is pretty grainy, you can see that there's 5 lights in this V formation boomerang shape. Beyond those 2 witnesses that I just briefly mentioned, there are several key players in this story. One of them being at the time, Arizona Governor Fife Symington. He was the governor of Arizona from, I think, 90 or 91 until 97, the year of the event. Events. The second important person, her name is Frances Barwood. She was a city councilwoman. She did not actually see this happen. However, she was approached by a reporter who knew about the incident and asked her a question about it. And Frances was like, what? Say what? What are you talking about? Because she didn't see it. And she told the reporter, let me get back to you. I've got a meeting. So she's somebody who was completely mocked. So she went to this council meeting and she asked for an explanation because everybody was talking about it around her. And she's like, yo, so what are these lights in the sky all about? And can we have an investigation looking into it? Because it seems pretty serious that, hundreds of people around us saw these lights in the sky and nobody can explain where they came from. But someone stopped her and said, you shouldn't have asked that question. Ooh, I got the chill bumps right now. You shouldn't have asked that question. What the fuck? Okay. She went over to Arizona Senator John McCain and also I think was in cahoots with Fife Symington, the governor. And asked them multiple times, like, hey, can we have a government investigation about this? The United States Air Force said they had no comment. To me, you say, we have no comment. That means, okay, what are you hiding? There's obviously something you have
Y'all
to be
know
hiding.
something.
We already know. I will go back to Frances because during my digging escapades, I learned some shit, okay? And it's insane. Okay. Another key player, like I mentioned, is the United States Air Force. Luke Air Force Base is just 35 minutes from Phoenix, where the majority of these lights were seen. So the official narrative of what happened, given by the government, the United States Air Force, they had an explanation, first and foremost, for the second incident, what was seen over Arizona. And there were witnesses that said that this craft literally spanned over 2 blocks, 2 city blocks, and it just went over them. Like, so many people saw this shit, and the Air Force just came back and said, oh, no. That was Operation Snowbird. And I'm just going to directly quote the little quick bit that I got from Wikipedia on the official narrative of this incident. And it says, the United States Air Force identified the second group of lights as flares dropped by A-10 Warthog aircraft that were training exercises at the Barry Goldwater Range in southwest Arizona. So what the hell does that mean? We'll touch on it. But basically, they said that they were doing a military exercise, and that's why the people saw lights in the skies. They pretty much said that the aircraft were dropping flares. Whatever. That's the narrative we are going with. That's the official tea.
It's the official narrative.
Yes. Okay. So going back to the witnesses, Fife Symington, the governor of Arizona at the time. So Fife is interesting because he pretty much mocked this whole situation. He went and had this press conference because the people were clearly terrified. They had no explanation for why they saw literal craft hovering over their freaking faces at night. And they wanted answers, and rightfully so. So Fife will later explain himself that he did this, what I'm about to tell you, he did this to calm the public down because he was maybe also a little bit frightened and he just wanted there to be a little bit of damage control. But basically, he had his chief of staff come up on stage at this press conference addressing the people of Arizona. And his chief of staff dressed as an alien. And he mocked the entire situation. Like, completely swept it under the rug. Leave me the fuck alone. I'm not going to talk about it. It's bullshit. Don't believe the riffraff, right?
Mm-hmm. I feel like I have seen a clip of that before.
You may have.
Yeah.
And I think that was the one thing that when I was doing my research, I was like, this is freaking familiar. But here's the real tea. Years later, after the incident, Fife actually... Can I call you Fife? Symington came and... He came out years later and he basically was like, yo, I hate to say it, but I actually saw the lights myself. And there's videos on videos of interviews of him saying, yeah, I saw it coming upon this crest or what have you. In researching witnesses, I stumbled upon a woman named Dr. Lynn Katai. I first heard about her when I was looking at some of the local news stations. I saw her on the ABC 15 25th anniversary of events that was posted in March 2022, not too long ago. And in her brief appearance, I found myself going down a rabbit hole. I found out that she's actually really important in this whole story because she is a medical physician who literally risked her reputation. She saw these lights, and several years after the fact, she went and made this documentary with all this footage that she had and interviewed all of these experts and things. And her shit won a bunch of awards at festivals. Like, this documentary blew the fuck up. But what's interesting about her is not only that she's a doctor, and a documentarian. But if you check her IMDb page, you'll find that she is an actress, and she was in the movie, the very famous movie starring Nicolas Cage called Raising Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah. She played, I want to say Florence was the name of her character. Yeah. So that's a thing. There's a lot of people online that think that she told her story just thinking she was self-absorbed and that she wanted the story to be about her. But I don't know. She seems a little, I don't know. You'd have to watch the videos of her interviews and things. But I personally don't think that someone in her position, someone who's a doctor, a physician, would want to risk their credibility in that profession by spewing some shit like, oh, yeah, I believe in aliens, right? Another thing, there was a mystery pilot who was one of the first to call air traffic control and report that he had seen lights in the sky. Well, this person didn't come forward until years later. And my source for this is actually a Jimmy Kimmel interview, because you won't believe who the fuck saw the lights. None other than Kurt Russell from The Thing. He saw these lights, called them in, and in the interview he said that at the time he saw it, reported it, didn't know what it was. He was with his son. They were going to visit his girlfriend or his friend or something. He saw the lights, reported it, went home, thought nothing of it. And then a couple years later, Goldie Hawn, no big deal, his wife, a queen in her own right.
Not wife.
Wait, I guess weren't they married at the time?
They've never been married.
Okay. So, anywho's.
They are just forever boyfriend and girlfriend. Wait, unless they eventually got married, but I think they're just doing
Maybe I fudged my research, but we're going to say partner. His partner, Goldie Hawn at the time, she was watching something on the TV a couple years after this incident happened, and it was covering the incident. And Kurt came home and he overheard the TV and he was like, whoa, what are you watching? And she was like, oh, it's the Phoenix Lights. And he's like, holy shit, I was the pilot. I'm pretty sure I was the pilot. And he had a logbook of all of his travels that he did. And he went back and the time matched up. And he was like, whoa, how the hell did I wipe this from my mind? And, that doesn't make any sense that it never came back to me. That's crazy. So, I don't know. I think it's kind of funny. Like, why did he forget? Did he really forget? Did he actually see it? I think he did. I don't know. He named the actual aircraft that he was flying. And if that's official, then it's official. But yeah, there were lots and lots and lots of witnesses. They all said the same thing. The initial narrative was that, like we said, they were flares that came from the United States Air Force. And I watched one documentary that showed flares being put up in the sky, and it's not consistent with the movement that you see on the video, the official video. So personally, I'm not really sure. I feel like I keep getting off of Frances Barwood, and I got to get back to her because I have to quote something that she said. One of the documentaries, it was one of those things that I just so happened to find on YouTube. I'm not sure how this person got a hold of this video. It was literally captioned in a different language, but I don't know. Maybe it was bootlegged. I don't know. But this documentary showed Frances Barwood, and she's telling her story, and she says, and I quote, "This whole thing has been a government cover-up. I know firsthand." And she goes on to explain that there was a man that had contacted her because she's out here causing a fucking ruckus, trying to get these answers. And this man lets her know. He says, hey, I've actually got some high quality video of this craft. You can actually see the outline of the craft. It's not just lights. I've got the real motherfucking deal. And she was really excited. She said, I'd love to see it. Well, guess what? It never got to her because two men from a black sedan, he didn't recognize these men, but they came up, they knocked on his door. They said, hey, sir, are you so-and-so? I heard you have a video that we need. And he said, oh, do you work for Frances? Yes, we do. We do work for Francis. Do you have any copies of this video? And he says, actually, no. And they say, don't worry about it. We'll make extra copies for you. They drove away, never to be seen again. Francis, I guess, followed up later and was like, yo, where's the video? And he's like, whoa, what about these guys that came and got the video for me to give to you? She didn't send these people. So were they Men in Black?
That's crazy. But also, he should have made a copy.
Bruh.
That's on you, bro.
Man.
You gotta have a backup for the backup.
You gotta have a backup for the backup. When I saw that, I have this notebook. I wrote, OMG, OMG, holy shit. Like, what the fuck? I wrote what the fuck all over this notebook. I honestly, Sannah, I could go on and on about this, but because there were so many eyewitness accounts, even today, this was in 1997, I went on Reddit, I went on YouTube. There were people in the comments that witnessed this event themselves, and the response was overwhelming. Overwhelming in that, obviously, without a doubt, this happened. Too many people witnessed it for it to have not happened. The question still remains, though, what was it? Was it alien craft? Was it a government cover? Is it a government cover-up for a different reason? Was it a secret military operation that another country was doing? Someone that's not our friend? Who knows? I'm telling you, I went down the rabbit hole. There's so much information that I could give you, but it's just overwhelming at this point. And we've been recording for a long time, so I'll stop there. But I don't really know what I believe, because I kind of want to believe that it's UFOs, because that's just really cool to me. I think that's maybe less terrifying than if it were somebody from another country trying to harm us, or I don't know.
What documentaries did you watch? Because I want to watch them.
I am glad you asked. I will link these for you. My sources. Let's see. BuzzFeed Unsolved, Wikipedia, Reddit and Reddit comments, YouTube and YouTube comments, Arizona Local News, Jimmy Kimmel Live, IMDb, a documentary that I saw on the History Channel, and then that random documentary that I saw on YouTube. Oh, one thing that I have to mention about the Phoenix Lights, it's so cool to me. This happened 25 years ago, and if you go back in the archives, you will see that this was and still is a huge freaking deal in Arizona. So big of a deal that they celebrate the anniversary every freaking time. There's always a news segment about it. And not only that, but they have an EDM, like electronic music festival called the Phoenix Lights. Of course. And I watched a little video on YouTube of people getting down dressed like aliens, and it was pretty neat, and I kind of want to go. But I feel like if you're going to wear one of those costumes, you don't want to be doing it up in the desert, because you will literally sweat your taint off.
Yeah, I'll just wear something that's glow in the dark.
Glow in the dark, honey.
Speaking of that,
that's my story. I don't know if you have anything to ask or add to that, but I know it was kind of a lot.
No, it wasn't that long. So I don't feel like it was an overwhelm of information.
I'm telling you, I've got 10 pages of just written notes that I could have gone into. There's probably so much stuff that I forgot to mention, but you get the gist of it. Yeah. We don't really know.
It was just an event that happened that hasn't been proven or disproven yet fully.
And that's the thing about this.
It's been explained away by the Air Force.
Yeah, so that's what gets me, because no matter what UFO stories we decide to do in the future, it's going to have the same undertones of what is the government hiding? Obviously, they're hiding something, but what is it? And I understand that you can't have mass hysteria, and I know that they can't come out and say one way or the other, oh, yeah, it's aliens, because our world would literally go up in flames.
Yeah.
As if it didn't already go up in flames, it would just go up in flames even more. Oh my gosh, how did I almost forget the most insane freaking thing? Sannah. If I didn't mention this, I apologize. The official narrative, it was called Operation Snowbird.
Okay.
At the very end of the documentary I saw that talked about the Men in Black, I had chills, dude. The narrator at the very end was like, oh, in Operation Snowbird, remember that? Yeah. In the military, snowbird means diversion.
Oh. That's a very on the nose name to give it.
Right. So, yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Thanks so much for listening, guys.
Thank you for listening. This was our first time even trying to record a full episode because it took a lot of technical setup and stuff. And we did do tests, but this was our first time hearing each other's stories and actually recording. So we promise it'll get better from here.
Yeah. All right, bye.
Bye.
Thank you so much for tuning in to Shook. New episodes of Shook drop every other Wednesday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, soon to be wherever you find your podcasts. Check out our show notes for more information on this week's episode, our social links, and more. Until next time, stay shook. Hey, do you have a personal paranormal encounter that you'd like to share with us? Visit our website, shookpodcast.com, to fill out our contact form. Or you can send us an email at shookparanormalpod@gmail.com.